In this video, I'm going to do kind of a short and sweet review about how to create users using Ansible ad hoc commands on all of our machines. Now, I'm doing this video specifically because I couldn't find a whole lot of people doing this via ad hoc commands, and I ran into some issues, and so I wanted to document it, what was happening, as well as hopefully help other people in the future. So go ahead and log into our Ansible machine here. What we have here is basically two different terminals. On the left hand side we have our Ansible machine, and then on the right hand side we have a web server that we're configuring. Now I already have an inventory file, so if we do head inventory.txt, we can see we already have an all group, and we have our web servers and DB servers already defined. So what I want to do is I want to create a user called ego, and I want to create this on all four of those machines. So first off, on the web server, let's go ahead and check to see if the user is there. Let's just tail /etc password. Since this is a Linux machine, it tells me if users are there or not, and it is. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove this. So I want to go ahead and uninstall that user or remove that user from that machine. So I'm going to use Ansible to do that for me. An ad hoc command. I'm going to start off with Ansible -i in our inventory file. Specifically, I want to go to the all group. So I want this to happen on all users. I want to use the module of user with the options of, let's see, name equals egoed, state equals absent. So this should remove the user machine. Once this is done, I need to give a few more options at the end here. Let's see, so -u for user. I want to use just in case, my user just in case, to be able to log into that machine. -k, so it will prompt me for the user. And then because we're doing user management, I need to elevate my permissions. Justin by default does not have permissions to be able to create or manage users, so I need to do a -b, which means become, so it will elevate the permissions. And then a -K, so it will prompt for the become password. So when I hit enter, it asks me for the just in cases SSH password, super secret password 01. And because the sudo password that Justin uses is exactly the same as his SSH password, at this point I can just go ahead and hit enter, and it should go to all four of my machines and remove this user. Okay, so now that it's removed, if I do again the tail etc password, I should see my user account now gone. So before it was Justin and me, and now it's just Justin. Alright. So with that being said, let's go ahead and prepare for creating our user account. Now for creating the user account, it is actually fairly similar to the command we did to remove it, except instead of state absent, we have to say password equals. But the question is how do we get a password in here? I can't just simply type password 01 because that's not a secure way to transport passwords across the network. What I have to do is I have to somehow hash this password so that I can then transport it across the network. I'm going to Control-C this because that's not correct. What I want to do instead is I want to use the command mkpassword, mkpasswd, with a method of SHA-256. The mkpassword command, if you have it on your machine. If you don't, yum install mkpassword or apt install mkpassword. What will happen is it will prompt me for a password. What password do I want to encrypt? And in this case, it's password 01. So I encrypt it, and then it spits out this hash right here. It actually has already salted the hash with a random salt and has gone ahead and created that hashed password. So I'm going to copy that, right click copy. Hopefully your mouse works there. Otherwise you get to retype it manually. At this point, I'm going to up arrow to get to my Ansible command. And I'm going to show you how this doesn't work first, and then show you how to make it work after that. So password equals, and then let's go ahead and probably single quotes and paste in the hash. So Ansible-I inventory-m user-a with the name of the user, and then dash password with the hashed password. Again, still login is just in case, prompt me for the user for the password, become the super user, and prompt for the super user password. At this point, I hit enter, prompts me for the SSH password and the sudo password, and then it goes ahead and it creates the users. Now, if I go back to my machine and again I do a tail for the etc password file, I will see, yes, the user ego now exists. However, if I also do a tail /etc/shadow, and I have to run this as sudo because it requires super user privileges, the shadow file is where the passwords are actually stored. And you may notice the just in case hash for his password is pretty big, but the hash for my password, not so much. And this actually means that it didn't work. It put a password in there, but that's not that password. So if I try to do an SU as the new user there, and I type in the password 01, it just doesn't work. It tells me that the password is incorrect. So the password that I sent it didn't quite work. And this is where I ran into an issue. And one of the reasons why I'm creating this video is because that's how all the documentation said to do it. It said go ahead and use MK password in order to create the password, and then pipe that into the Ansible ad hoc command. So where was the issue? And it turns out that the issue is in this command. It's the formatting of this command. I'm actually going to hit Control-C here. Control-C, so we can actually see it line by, or side by side. I'm saying that this is wrong simply because of the quotes that we're using. Here, right in front of name, we're using a double quote. We actually need to use a single quote. And then for password, let's use a double quote. So I just simply need to change around the quotes that I'm using, from single to double and from double to single. And that's exactly all I've done. So it's double quote initially, single quote now. So I swapped both the quotes. I now run it. It tells me I went ahead and changed it. And now if I look at the shadow file, I should now see just in case's password. That's fairly big. And my password is now bigger. Not quite as big as I expected it, but still bigger. So now if I should be able to SU in as that user. And there we go. Now we can see I actually did log in. The prompt changed from just in case to egoed. I'm now logged in. The password was sent properly. And if I scroll back up, again, it was just a difference between right there, between those two lines. The first line I used double quote around name and then single quote around the password. And the second line, I changed it to a single quote around name and then a double quote around the password.